What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my Godzilla comic book reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater presents Romeo and Juliet and Godzilla. That's right, we're another entry in this Monsterpiece Theater storyline thing. Beforehand, we had that crazy thing where it was like Dracula, Jay Gatsby, Jules Verne stuff, and all sorts of other classic literary characters thrown into the mix by having Godzilla shown up. So it makes it all the more awesome. Now we have Romeo and Juliet and Godzilla and Mothra, and a very interesting take on Mechagodzilla in terms of its design. And then there's a backup storyline about Godzilla and Robin Hood, but not much really happens in there. I guess this is going to be a backup for subsequent issues, because they're going to be doing one where it's going to be Godzilla and the Odyssey, which that feels more in line with something that Godzilla fits in with pretty well. So Godzilla and Romeo and Juliet or whatever feels a little off. They're having like this romantic thing and these families are feuding, but there's a giant freaking monster going around in the background. Maybe y'all should just kind of flee the city or something like that. They're worried about family drama and all that. I'm sorry, but the giant monsters seem a little bit more important. Now, Romeo and Juliet's arguably the most famous love story of all time. This one's written by Adam Tierney, art by Sean Peacock, letter and design by Brian Kolek, and edited by Jake Williams. Now, Romeo and Juliet's one of the most famous love stories of all time, arguably the most famous of all time. Yeah, actually, it probably is the most famous, but it's a book. I remember having to read it like back in high school, and then I remember seeing some movies about it a few times. So, you know, I get the basic idea of the storyline. It's what they kind of incorporate into this thing. I was never a huge fan of it myself. It just like some of the kind of old Englishy like talking dialogue, I have a trouble like getting into. That's just me. Maybe someone else like is more into it. If you're into kind of that more like type of dialogue and style, then you'll probably get into this thing more. If you're someone like me who had to read it in school and just did not enjoy it at all, then it makes it a little bit more difficult. But the good news is Godzilla is in there to kind of make it better. I mean, this feels like something I would kind of come up with as I'm trying to read those things in school. I'm like, man, why can't Godzilla just show up and just unleash hell? And that's what he does. So the Romeo and Juliet storyline stays pretty similar. But there's some rather wacky twists involved. I mean, Godzilla shows up, Mothra shows up as well, and it seems like their battle kind of brings Romeo and Juliet a little bit closer together. One of the two houses actually builds their own version of Mechagodzilla within this thing, and it's kind of a cool design. It's similar to the, you know, Showa era design, but it's kind of got a wood look to it, and I thought that was kind of interesting. It fits the aesthetic of the time period, because I'm generally surprised that they were able to build something like this at this, you know, point in time, but I thought it was kind of cool. It was a unique looking, like, kind of period piece Mechagodzilla design without all the super advanced technology and all that too. So I thought that was kind of cool. That to me is the most interesting aspect about it. Godzilla and Mothra kind of have, I guess they're trying to have a mirror a little bit of Romeo and Juliet. Not quite a romance, but, you know, something's going on with them where, you know, Godzilla, like when Mothra gets hurt, it kind of has this look of concern on him. Romeo and Juliet get married, have the things where they have the poison and all that. Godzilla in that kind of fight squishes a bunch of people, which is entertaining, especially because I'm generally somebody who didn't really care much for Romeo and Juliet and having to read it in some of that old English dialogue. So whenever Godzilla comes in and stomps on somebody, like that gets a thumbs up for me. Like, oh, finally, somebody made this story like enjoyable to read a little bit more. And then, of course, they go through the motions of, you know, the tragic love story ends with them both dying or whatever. Although, like, Romeo turns, like, into the Hulk monster for some reason. It doesn't really do much with it. He just kind of grows to size and then just sort of doesn't. I just don't understand what the point of it was. But yeah, so Julia wakes up, sees that he kind of transformed to something. I can't be without my love, blah, 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 blah. And then just kind of dies too by performing seppuku. I don't know. It's just kind of, that always was kind of dumb to me. I was more interested in the giant monster stuff in this storyline. But they do get into a fight, destroy him, and then Mothra and Godzilla kind of go their own separate ways. So there's that. What a bizarre storyline. And yeah, so then the backup, it's written by, who was it by? I have to look again. Tom Scioli or something like that. Art by Tom Scioli or whatever. I think he did the backup of it too. But yeah, it's kind of the start of storyline. It's going to be continued in the next thing, which is going to be Godzilla and the Odyssey. But, you know, Robin Hood's off fighting stuff. One of them kind of, he's fighting, who was he fighting? The sheriff or whatever. The sheriff sees Godzilla kind of showing up during this fight and then just kind of disappears. So artwork is, you know, okay. There's not much that really happens in this thing I just don't know why we're like having it as a backup in this thing. I guess it'll take a couple issues to kind of fill that out. I would have much rather that just kind of be like its own thing. But hey, it is what it is, I suppose. I'm sorry, Romeo and Juliet and Godzilla, like the Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater presents thing. It's fun to see Godzilla thrown into some of these older storylines. Now, there's storylines oftentimes that I kind of struggled reading when I was younger. Like I said, Great Gatsby was one where I just did not like that book at all. I know it's a very popular book and multiple like award-winning like movie adaptations, but it was a storyline I never got into, but it's made tolerable thanks to Godzilla. Romeo and Juliet's kind of the same thing for me too. Like I just didn't enjoy reading it when I was younger, but throwing Godzilla in there and I'm like, okay, well at least it's now like something I can enjoy reading. I think, was it Mike Doherty said a quote like anything is made better by adding Godzilla to it, and that's a fact. So at least there's like some monster destruction to kind of keep it somewhat entertaining, but I still have to struggle kind of reading some of that old English like dialogue in that, which I just never really enjoyed reading. I've had to read that in other things, what was like Pride and Prejudice or whatever. It's just something I just don't connect to, like reading wise. It just kind of grades. It's just grading for me to kind of read. And there's aspects of the storyline that are like that because it's trying to adapt to that storyline, but it is made better thanks to Godzilla, Mothra, and a cool-looking design for Mechagodzilla. The Robin Hood thing, not much really happens. I guess I got to kind of read a couple issues in this little storyline to kind of get the full picture of it, so we'll see how that is when it's done. But as it stands, Romeo and Juliet and Godzilla, I don't think it's quite as good as the previous like Monsterpiece Theater thing that we had, but it did make Romeo and Juliet more tolerable, so I have to give it some credit and kind of props there. So, but yeah, it's not something I'd like rush to go read, mainly because it's not really my favorite type of storyline. But it was kind of it was made better thanks to Godzilla showing up. A little weird towards the end though, which I was wondering what's with the potions changing into monsters. They don't really do anything with it. So, and plus, like, if these characters are having this iconic romance or whatever, why is this, like, I mean, there's some more important things than family drama going on when you have giant freaking monsters fighting in the background. So that was just kind of like takes me out of it. So I kind of, like I said, I like the previous one a little bit more because they took the various characters and kind of mixed them in together and kind of told a new story. Here is kind of retelling Romeo and Juliet with giant monsters kind of thrown in the mix. And I feel like it could have changed things up a little bit more, but it is fun to see Godzilla come in and squash all these annoying people. So kudos to that. But anyways, that's all I really have to say. What did you think of the issue? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all the other fun stuff. And with that said, I am officially all caught up with my comic book videos in time for new comic book day tomorrow. It's a good feeling. I know it's been taking me a while, but we're there. We're ready to go. We got this, man. We got this by the ass. So I'll see you all tomorrow with new comic book day. I think there's one Godzilla comic book, there's a Skull Island comic book, and then there's some DC books as well. So look forward to all those. All right, well, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.